But you know, we missed out on the Serpent Mound meetings last week. But praise the Lord, October 1st in Wilmington, at Wilmington College, we have the privilege, it's open to all of us. It's called the Peace Symposium, and it will highlight water justice. Now, I'm not sure what water justice is, so I've got to go and find this out. But Wilmington College will delve into the relationship between peace and the environment through the lenses of water justice. Again, I'm not sure how they're approaching that. I think it's going to be very interesting. The keynote speech will be on human rights, the rights of nature, and an era of extreme extraction. I don't know, extraction means to pull out. I mean, if they extract too. So I'm not sure what they're going to be extreme extraction. Maybe it's people, I don't know. And climate change. We know that we'll all be better. And by the way, the keynote speaker is a Harvard-educated person, so we know that she has the credentials to follow through on whatever these things are. Her name is Leduc. I think she's an Indian, by the way, which, you know, is okay. I mean, I'm not, prejudiced in this way. She works on other such issues as climate change, renewable energy, and food systems. Will promote water justice. Does anybody know what water justice is? I'm sincere. I don't know what it is. Justice for water. I'm at a loss to see where this is fitting into things, but and its necessity not only for human water justice is necessity not only for human rights. By the way, just Leduc, she has a mini brewery, and she's expounding the value of, instead of drinking water, I'm only kidding, I don't know, but I don't know, you got to either swallow water quickly so you don't hurt it, or I'm not sure. But anyway, it's necessity not only for human rights, but also for the natural environment. And it goes along and says what people can do to promote water justice. So if you want to know, October 1st at Wilmington College. By the way, Harvard was founded as a Christian school. Wilmington College was founded as a Quaker school, which is a very conservative group. They both have gotten away a little bit from where they started at.
Amen.
Keynote, if you can't make the morning meeting, 1 p.m., a dance troupe known as Ponce will give an original performance. That means they've never done it before, so it's kind of ad-libbed, I suppose. Performance featuring live music on the theme of water justice. This is the big thing. Let me ask this: will anybody volunteer? Eugene, would you go and find out for us? And it's going to start at the bridge over Lytle Creek in Hazard Arboretum and continue to the McCoy Room. That's at Wilmington College. The dancers use their bodies to speak their mind. That's like a meme. You go up and you say, You don't talk. So these dancers are going to be obviously speaking their mind. I can only imagine that speaking their mind is that's water justice. Don't kill water by taking it in. I guess. I don't know. Eugene, please go. Then it's going to be, they're going to be speaking in mind, incorporating a pedestrian-inspired movement to spark collaboration, connection, and community. So this is going to be quite a thing. And another speaker is going to be speaking on water justice, agriculture, and the environment. And that fella is from Antioch College. Now, some of you younger people may not be familiar with Antioch College. If you're not, back when I was a younger person, Antioch College was probably the most liberal college, well, I won't say United States, but very possible, certainly in Ohio and any place I was familiar with. So it looks like they haven't changed too much. So finally, the question is going to be answered. Water justice, what can you do? So Eugene, please. So this is the things that are taking place. Last week it was the thing down at Serpent Mound, which is sort of had to do with nature worship. Somehow or another, it seems like this might be nature worship in some fashion also. So these things are very common today. And the background is to put down, I think the bottom line is put down the Christian beliefs. Nature worship, nothing new, been around for thousands of years, and it's continuing, not dead. We've not, man has not found out, hey, this is silly. They still go along with it. Okay. Another thing, this was in our local paper this week. Here's another one in our local paper. From the 1960s until very recently, liberals successfully argued at the Supreme Court that the tyranny of the majority, which was Christian, cannot define the lives and experiences of secular citizens. Now, it is a fact that during the last number of years, most of the Supreme Court decisions were against Christianity. It came to secular Christianity, and here it even says the tyranny of the majority. You know, I don't know. Can anybody give me a definition of tyranny? Can anybody, make a guess at it? Tyranny. Typically, that is when somebody or some group, we think of it normally in terms of rulers or something, they set the standards, and the standards are theirs, and if you diverge from that standard, then you can be whatever, imprisoned, killed, ostracized, shunned from the country, whatever. I don't know if that's a good definition of it, but I think it shows how it works. But the secular community felt like Christians, who the majority at that time, were full of tyranny. I cannot, some of you people that are older than me, I know there's a few out there that's got to be. Do you remember any tyranny taking place because of Christianity? You know, I can't. Because I'm probably oblivious to it. I don't know. Becky could tell you I'm the most unobservant person. And she's probably right, but that's neither here nor there. But okay. For decades, the courts regularly ruled the laws imposed by local majorities enforcing school prayer or religious displays on government property violated the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. First Amendment, free speech and the freedom of religion. Now, over this time, nobody comes to the defense of Christianity and saying, this is what our government was based on. Historically, if anybody knows, our history is being changed drastically. If it doesn't fit the politically correct thing, then it's no longer considered history. They do away with history. You know, history is just some facts that have taken place. Hopefully the facts. Nowadays we learn. I've given you this before, but it makes so much bad sense. I asked a young fellow, probably 6 or 7 years ago, he graduated from high school, what he had learned in his history class, or something to that effect. And he got to talking, and in his history class of U.S. government, he said they gave one paragraph to the first president of the United States, George Washington. One paragraph. Well, that's at least good that they gave one paragraph. Now then, they gave a page and a half to Marilyn Monroe. Does anybody know who Marilyn Monroe was? I didn't hear what you said.
Harlan.
Yes, she was known to have had relationships with both Bobby Kennedy and JFK, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, president and one who sought to be president, among others. Her death, ruled as suicide, was very, very suspicious. And it's odd that these things happen. But she got 1.5 pages while George Washington got a paragraph. Folks, that's history is being rewritten, not for the good. I honestly didn't read the page and a half. I didn't read the paragraph either. I didn't have a textbook to look that up in or anything, but I bet you they ruled her in a very, very favorable light. Okay, so prayer and religious displays on government property violated the establishment calls the First Amendment, which has been interpreted to mean the government is prohibited from endorsing religion or favoring one religion over another. Now, none of those things did that in the last decade, or last several years, I guess, since it was founded. You could become a Presbyterian or a Methodist or a Baptist or a Catholic or nothing. Now, it was founded on the Ten Commandments to a major degree, which they will argue with, but that is a true fact which they do not acknowledge anymore. So, and those decisions meant that the rights of the non-Christian minority defined the public place of religion in the U.S. So now we have seen that the non-Christian minority is now establishing what is a standard of right and wrong. However, believe it or not, in the last decade, it has changed a little bit. And guess why it has changed? Christianity is not any longer considered the majority, it is considered the minority. And it has changed, and now since it's minority, it actually has more power than it had when it was the majority, according to the court system. Now, not everybody likes that. We've had several decisions in 2017, a church, a secular claim against the church and the state government. Basically, the ruling was this, that the church was not allowed to do certain things because the state said it, but because of religious grounds. Another one, which we're probably a little bit more familiar, 2018, a Christian business, and there's been several, flower business being one, a bakery being another, refused to bake a cake or supply flowers for a particular wedding. The wedding was between two, I don't know whether they were lesbians or homosexuals. I hate to call them gay because they're prostituting the word gay. Gay has a lot better appearance, sound to it than queers. But anyway, the bakery and the flower shop, among others, and there was several others, they were all found by the lower courts to be in violation. In fact, I think one of the groups that refused on grounds of their religion to serve, or they finally went out of business because of the lawyer fees and all this stuff that they had to do, and they were shut down and so forth. So, and an atheist organization against veteran groups. Well, that's one. You know, the veterans have been a slighted part of our country since the Vietnam War. And so, can you imagine? I can't imagine. I was not in the war, but soldier seeing his friends and comrades killed and maimed in action, then come home to America for what he thought he was doing the job that he was supposed to do and being spit upon and cursed and being made to be a second-class citizen. Where have we gone in America? Folks, I say this probably every Sunday that I'm up here. You know, we're in a battle. We're in a serious battle, and it would appear that you know, we've been losing this battle. You know? So we see those things now. In the lower courts, they ruled in favor of the secular arguments. Praise the Lord that our Constitution was set up so that we have checks and balances. And it's not always the lower court that finally decides a decision. In the Supreme Court, all three of those arguments have been ruled now, overturned the lower courts, and ruled in favor of the Christian. I'll say this, praise the Lord for, you know, you may or may not like Trump, and, you know, I think he's doing well. I'm not sure I really think I'd want to be in his household or something of that nature, but the Supreme Court has now been put in charge 5-4 with conservatives. What a blessing that is.
Amen. Amen.
So these things, now, the two, at least on these decisions, it was a 5-2, so it wasn't a 5-4. 7-2, I should say. The two dissenters on against the rights of the Christians, and this is pastor's favorite, is, and he does a great imitation of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Can you give us a little? You got to look at that because that's But so maybe, and you know, I'm not. Believe me, I'm not suggesting that we pray that she gets out of dies or anything like that. I think that would be a wrong prayer to pray. So, and Sonia Sotomayor, those were the two most liberal, I guess. So now, we're still in a fight because they made some right decisions. Doesn't mean that things have become right yet. According to a recent survey between 2016 and 2019, the perceptions of discrimination against blacks, Hispanics, women, and Jews have gone up. In other words, the perception within America, and I think that perception is probably correct, that the blacks, Hispanic, women, and Jews, discrimination against them has gone up. But guess what? There's another group in there. That other group is against Christians. The perception is, and you know, if you perceive something, you probably better take notice. Would be my thought. Okay, those are things that are taking place in our country today, even locally. And so I thought we need to be prepared for that. We need to be solid. The last verse of Jude, The only wise God, our Savior, be glory and majesty, power and dominion, both now and forever. Amen. The first phrase, the only wise God. You know, we are to be wise also. Who's our leader? The Lord Jesus Christ. We should emulate him. If he's wise, then should we not also be wise as well? Now, in past lessons, we've talked about a wise man and a wise builder, a wise example, a wise rebuke, a wise is instructed, wise son, wise heart, wise lips, wise soul winner, wise counsel, wise walk, wise woman, wise crown, wise servant, and we're at wise tongue. If you turn with me to Proverbs, the 15th chapter of Proverbs, we're going to look at a wise tongue. 15th in Proverbs chapter 2. The tongue of the wise useth knowledge aright, but the mouth of fools pour out foolishness. Now, I don't know about you folks. There's probably not a shoe in my closet that do not have teeth marks in it. I've had to eat my words a lot. I've stuck my mouth around my shoe. I stuck my shoe in my mouth, I guess. And so I've had to chew on a lot of shoe leather. But the tongue of the wise useth knowledge aright. I'm going to give you a little experience. I'll say this, make this upright if you think something, if I'm prejudiced or biased, I guess, probably biased, I am. I think my father was the smartest man that I've ever actually come in contact with. If I had if I had 1/10 of his knowledge, I'd consider myself smart. Now, Becky will tell you what I consider myself, and it's not smart. But he could do anything. But what does that have to do with the tongue of the wise? Use knowledge aright. He, among other things, and many, many other things, he was worked on refrigeration. What's that mean? He worked on coolers and ice boxes, and well, not ice boxes. That's pretty old time, I guess. But refrigeration equipment of one kind or another. And he worked in grocery stores. He worked in restaurants, and worked in bars and grill. Now, might have said, well, you shouldn't have been working in a bar and a grill. Well, it was work, and he did it. I'll just say this in defense, that if he didn't, if a grocery store had beer and wine, and you held yourself to the same standard as he, then you wouldn't go into that grocery store. But guess what? There's not a grocery store in town that you could go into. I don't suppose, because I've never been in any. But anyway, and he often, sometimes when he was at whatever place he was working at, he'd park in the rear. Why? Because most of the refrigeration equipment was in the back of the building, and that gave him a place to park his vehicle without having to park on the street and pay the city meters and so forth. So, if somebody came along and said, hey, Alvin Hedges, I saw him parked behind the bar and grills, stand for Shug's Bar and Grill, whatever it was called. Just making that statement would imply maybe that he was in there for a reason, not a good reason. But he never drank. But the tongue can put out just the fact. Yes, he was parked there and he went in. Eventually came out. But sometimes we got to think before we say, because it can make a difference. The old adage, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Guess what? That's not true. Right? That is absolutely not true. I won't mention names because most of you folks, and you probably will maybe even guess who it is. School teacher literally had to resign. In fact, he was found not guilty by the police. The police never brought any kind of charges or anything of that nature from teaching because of a pupil saying something that was untrue, but it affected his life. So it can happen. So we need to be very wise in our way that what we say, because we may be saying a fact, but it's not the whole fact. And so we need to be very, very careful. While we're in Proverbs chapter 15, let's go down to verse 28, which is kind of the same thing that we're thinking about here in the wise tongue. The heart of the righteous studieth to answer. Hey, if in doubt, take your time before you make a rash answer to something. Why? Because it may affect somebody. And of course, but the mouth of the wicked poureth out evil things. It's so often, and I think this is so, we see this often in our society, is that the wicked actually really do take great joy in bad things happening. Your newspapers tend to dwell on the bad things as opposed to the good things. Now, I'm sure most people would not be overjoyed about hearing that Bible Believers Baptist Church had a picnic out at the Liberty Park, and they actually did not booze it up. They did not have a keg out there. They did not, do things inappropriate. That they left the place, presumably clean. I'm sure you did, and that they enjoyed good festivities of a nice nature. What they would have preferred to hear with the Bible Believers Baptist Church was an unruly, ungodly bunch of people. That would have made great news, and they would have put that on, no doubt. So we've got to be careful on what we say. Have a wise tongue. Why? What God put down everything he put down and said to us, hey, it was wise. Sometimes we might not like it, but it is wise. So, okay, we're going to call it quits at this point. I got one more wise thing out, so after another 6 or 8 weeks, maybe we'll finish. Why? Anybody have any questions, any comments?